I'm beating Minecraft using math. Everything from algebra to calculus, all to show math's applications, but most importantly, to show math isn't just memorizing boring numbers and formulas, but instead something worth learning. After gathering some beds, I was ready to get some tools. So the average person might just mine some logs, cobblestones, craft some sticks, and then tools. So that's how I'm gonna do it, right? Well, I'm not a normal person. So by calculating the number of materials needed for each tool and adding them up, plus an extra log for the crafting table, I need 2 logs, 3 iron, and 6 cobblestone. After crafting my tools, I had completed the first step to beating the game. I gathered some more food and iron and quickly traveled to the Nether, where I hastily made my way to a nearby bastion and proceeded to steal all of their belongings. I was ready to trade with the piglins. But first, some math. If I give a piglin a gold ingot, then they have a 4.73% chance of giving 6 pearls. That means that it'll take 21 ingots to get 1 pearl trade. Since I want more than 12 pearls, that means it'll take 63 gold ingots, unless I was extremely skilled, in which case I would only need 19 trade. Dream. I gave the piglins gold, and then nearly died to a hoglin. So I proceeded to murder its child. And wait until I got all the materials I needed. After which I immediately began to run to the fortress. But I was met with the problem. There is a gap which I had to pearl. To calculate the pearl's trajectory, we first need to know some basics about triangles. If I take one triangle and scale it up to create a larger triangle, which share the same angles, and the only thing different about them are their sides, which are in a common ratio. Now, you might be asking, why is that even important? Well, if I throw a pearl, then its initial velocity and angle can be represented by a triangle. Now, this is the part where the fact from earlier comes in. If I have 2 right triangles, which are scale replicas, then they will have the same angles, and their sides will be in a common ratio to that angle, which can be represented by sine theta. Sine theta is the ratio of the opposite side of the hypotenuse. Now you might be asking, why not these 2 sides or even these 2 sides? But those already exist. They're just cosine and tangent. But now we can represent the other sides of the triangle just using the velocity and angle. The velocity of a pearl is 22 meters per second. And we can use this formula. The d in this represents the initial height, which is 1.32 blocks. The v is the y velocity. A is the gravitational constant. Okay, now you might be thinking, this is for time, but we need distance. And you'd be correct. So to find distance, we just simply take time and multiply it by the x velocity. Upon graphing the resulting equation, we get this graph, which takes in the angle of the pearl and returns the distance. We want our pearl to go 20 blocks, which equates to an angle of negative 7.3 degrees. After lining up the pearl and throwing, I landed. I continued on to get even closer to the fortress. At which point I had to pearl a very long distance. So I wanted the maximum range I could get. Looking back at the graph, at an angle of negative 44.3 degrees, the pearl will go 54 blocks. So after lining up the pearl once more and throwing, I landed. Once atop the fortress, I quickly found the blaze spawner. Now, if a blaze has a 50% chance of dropping a blaze rod, and each blaze rod gives 2 blaze powder, how many blazes do I need to kill to get 14 blaze powder? If you think you know, answer down in the comments. And while you're down there, like and subscribe. It's 1 click, and it helps a ton. Anyway, after collecting all the blaze rods I needed, I built a portal and headed to the overworld. Immediately, I threw an Eye of Ender to locate the stronghold. In Minecraft, there are 3 axes, the x-axis, the z-axis, and the y-axis. Take this line for example. It can be classified based on its slope, which is the number of units it goes up for every unit it goes to the right. For example, this line has a slope of 2. That can be represented by the ratio of this side to this side, or tangent of theta. Now, this is the equation for the line that my eye of ender points to. It might look daunting, but it's not that bad if you give it some time. The parts here and here are just the coordinates of my location, and the slope is given by this tangent equation, which is 90 minus theta because we have this angle and we want this angle. Now, if we repeat this for the second line, we can triangulate the stronghold, which is at these coordinates. And then I took a leap of faith to the stronghold. And that's it, right? No. But the island looks, like a quadrilateral. No. In order to optimize my time, I need to calculate the distances. The island looks like a quadrilateral, and after pointing the coordinates, I then calculated distances. The average speed of a Minecraft player sprinting is 7.127 blocks per second, and the average swimming speed is 5.162 blocks per second. I'll be swimming in this area and sprinting in this area. So in order to minimize time, I calculated the distances and divided by the rates. Okay, that looks ugly. So let's talk about calculus instead. Let's take an equation and its derivative. That the x-intercept of the derivative equation and the relative minimum of the original equation have the same x value. Now, if we look at the ugly function's derivative, it looks something like this. In the interval, it doesn't have any x-intercept, which means that one of the endpoints of the original equation will be the relative minimum. So that means we can tell that from going from A to B to D is the fastest way, and it equals roughly 61.3 seconds. I swam until I reached the floor of the land and continued running as fast as I could to the stronghold. As I ran, I nearly died. Twice. But somehow I managed to make it to the coordinates, at which point I dug straight down until I reached the stronghold. After navigating to the stronghold, I reached the portal room. Where I quickly filled in the eyes and made it to the end. After purling to the center and preparing for the dragon's perch, it finally perched. I readied my inventory and began killing the ender dragon. I thought of every problem solved, equation completed, every graph, everything, until the ender dragon was finally dead. Wait a second. Despite my best efforts, I couldn't beat the game. So I tried again, and failed. And again. But to no avail. I guess that means we're gonna have to wait.